Well, both the Liberals and the NDP had a great opportunity to turn the page and chart a bold new course for the province with fresh new leaders. Both reached into their past. Christy Clark is the ultimate insider, having been Campbell's deputy premier, and as the last few months have shown us, is completely devoid of new ideas, except raising the minimum wage, which was lifted directly from the NDP's last election platform. And the NDP now have Adrian Dix, who served as chief of staff to Glenn Clark, and was at the very heart of the last NDP government, an incompetent and fiscally irresponsible administration that did so much damage. This is why the new BC Conservatives are so important. We offer a real choice, a choice of principled, common sense government that will keep our economy strong, keep our streets safe, listen to the people, and let them get on with their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very reason a poll last week had us at 18%. Imagine that, 18% simply because we're offering a relief from this choice. It's a long way to go and a lot of hard work to get into government, but it's a heck of a start. 18% is higher than any third party has been in the polls in British Columbia since the Liberals emerged from the wilderness and replaced the Socreds. Now, ever since I announced I was running for the leadership of the new BC Conservatives, all the Liberals can say is that by voting Conservative, the free market vote will split and the NDP will win. The fact of the matter is this: the Liberals have been quite busy damaging the province and their own reputation enough to hand the next election to the NDP all on their own. What we provide is a new option, a real choice, and an alternative to the NDP for the free market voters who have already fled the Liberals. It's extremely telling that the only line the Liberals use is the so-called splitting the vote. They don't brag about their own record. No, their only argument is, vote for me, I'm not NDP. Although, this week, it's getting pretty hard to tell the difference. In fact, the Liberals are so ashamed of their past, they're planning to change the name of the party. Is this the action of a government that's proud of its past, proud of what it accomplished? No, they're hoping that they can fool the people of British Columbia into believing that they're somehow different because they have a new name and a new logo. Now, there are many people in this room who held their noses in the last election and voted Liberal. But when I look at that 18%, I know that we're simply not attracting voters from BC Liberals. Many people who voted NDP in the last election are not dyed-in-the-wool left-wingers. In fact, 1 in 5 federal Conservative voters supported Carol James and the provincial NDP in 2009. 1 in 5 people who voted for Stephen Harper's Conservatives in 2008 voted NDP a few months later. 1 in 5, that's 150,000 votes. People from Port Coquitlam to Cranbrook, from Surrey to Campbell River. Voters who believe in common sense, but saw so little of what they wanted in the Liberals, they voted for the only alternative, the NDP. I've met those voters as I toured this province in the last month. Conservatives who proudly voted for their local Conservative MPs just a few weeks ago, and who have been repulsed by the Liberal government that they voted for NDP MLAs. Wherever I have gone, I have met voters like this, voters who are excited about the new BC Conservatives, because we give them a real choice. No wonder. No wonder the last provincial election saw one of the poorest voter turnouts ever. that tens of thousands of British Columbians were so turned off by the only two choices, they just couldn't bring themselves to visit the polling station. It's not us who will be splitting the vote, it's the Liberal government who's driving their voters away. They can try to blame us for the results of their arrogance, their incompetence, their legacy of one scandal after another, but these claims don't hold water. After a decade in power, they have become self-serving, dishonest, and hopelessly inept. We are putting together a great team. I was honored to be introduced by Dennis McKay, who was a Liberal MLA until the last election. Dennis and countless others are turning their backs on a government that has turned its back on the reasons people voted for them, and we're not done yet. With every passing day, this Liberal government reminds me more and more of their Liberal cousins in Ottawa, who I fought against for the last 20 years. Think about this. The Premier of British Columbia is a proud federal Liberal, a party that has long ignored British Columbia, and British Columbians have now turned their backs on. In our province, in the last federal election, voters crushed Michael Ignatieff's Liberals by giving them only 13% of the vote. And Michael Ignatieff never imposed the HST. Michael Ignatieff never raised our gas prices with a carbon tax. Michael Ignatieff never spent our children into debt. And Michael Ignatieff never promised one thing and did the opposite in power. Only Christy Clark and the Liberals taxed and spent BC families into debt, raised the price of gas, and broke their promises. Only the Liberals in Victoria have delivered 4 deficit budgets in the last 10 years. But soon voters will have their chance to cast their verdict on this Liberal Party. We already have an example of what happens when conservative-minded people join together and decide to stand up to the Liberals. In my own backyard, South Delta, Vicki Huntington ran a campaign of listening to people, standing up for the community and conservative values. I was pleased to endorse her, and she defeated Wally Opal, one of the Liberals' so-called star candidates. She didn't split the vote, she won the vote, and that's what the new BC Conservatives will do in the next provincial election. I want to tell you why I ran for the leadership of the new BC Conservatives. After nearly 18 years as an MP in Ottawa, I wanted to focus on the home front. Like many British Columbians, I wasn't born here, but I chose to make it my home. I moved here from Ontario as a young man. I worked on the construction of the Bennett Dam on the Peace River. I've owned fishing boats and fished up and down this coast from the Fraser River to the Skeena. I taught grade 1, and I taught math in senior high school. In the late 1980s, I responded to the Reform Party's message of straight talking and common sense politics. I was fortunate to have the people of Delta and Richmond elect me as their MP 6 times. In Ottawa, I earned a reputation for speaking my mind and standing up for my constituents, even against the leadership of my own party at times. BC is my home, and we need another option. I want to provide that choice so that in the next election, voters aren't forced to choose between the lesser of 2 evils. We are building the new BC Conservatives, and we need your help. Join me in building a new party and a new government. We will do politics differently. We will listen to the people, not special interest groups. I've already announced that a BC Conservative government would change the law to ban unions and corporate donations to political parties. To take the big... influential money out of politics. And let me explain why we're doing that. Because unlike other parties, we think politics is about people and not vested interests. Political parties should be funded by the voters, not by lobbyists, corporations, and unions. We take the view that the people are the boss and their influence will never be bought. That's why, as an MP, I always believed my job was to stand up for my constituents, even if it meant clashing with my own party. I criticized government when it made decisions that were bad for my riding and my province. It didn't matter to me whether the government was conservative or liberal. And that's what I want our conservative MLAs to do. Their first responsibility will be to their ridings. As the leader, I will never punish an MLA for disagreeing with a party position in a respectful and responsible manner. Never punish an MLA for speaking up for his constituents. I endorse that. We will balance the budget and get Crown corporations under control. I can promise you that no CEO of BC Ferries will be making $1 million a year. I've spent the last month traveling around the province listening to people, from Port Hardy to Victoria, from Smithers to Penticton, from Campbell River to Kamloops. Everywhere I go, I hear about the price of gas and how it makes everything more expensive. When gas prices are high, we pay more for food, clothing, furniture, and in fact, pretty much everything we buy. The biggest component of gas prices is taxes. And in BC, we have a special tax, a tax no one else in North America has, our carbon tax. Now, on July 1st, the carbon tax will go up again. We will all pay more at the pump than we do right now. We were told that it would be revenue neutral. We were told that it would cut carbon emissions in BC. Nothing could be further from the truth. The government's own budget documents show that the amount of carbon emitted in BC has increased since the carbon tax was put in place, and will keep increasing for at least 4 more years. So we pay more at the pump, the price of groceries rises, there's more carbon in the air, and the government rakes in more money. Money that is used to send out vote for Christie checks or pay for the carbon bureaucracy.